Welcome to From Here to Eternia, the great pop culture debates reaction show to Netflix's Masters of the Universe Revelation. The first batch of episodes dropped July 23rd, but before that, we wanted to get out ahead to announce the show, get you guys excited, because we're excited about what we think are going to be some of the best cartoons to come out this year. And for 80s kids especially, we're super, super excited. I'm your host, Eric Rezsnyak, and fabulous secret powers were revealed to me the day that I watched muscled cartoon men in short shorts and harnesses wrestling on my television. I want to welcome my panel. Only two people know my secret, and two of them are on this podcast. It's Bob Erlenback.
And I have the PowerPoint presentation.
And our king... Hello. And please welcome our King Randor and the father of several young Eternians, Jim Czadzeck.
Hello.
Hi, Jim. Welcome.
Hi.
So just so everybody knows, Bob, we're going to actually talk a little bit about our experience with Masters in the Universe. So let's start in. Bob, when did you first become aware of the property? How were you first introduced to it?
God, I can't even remember when I first became aware. I kind of don't ever remember not being aware of the property. I just know that every single day I was glued to my television watching this. For people who know me, like that, the people on this podcast, anything that has lots of characters and lots of different interesting people to learn about, that's always been my thing all the way up until adulthood now. Like when I read comic books and things like that, anything that has a beaucoup de characters, then I am there for it. So I really don't ever remember not being part of it. I remember I like lived and breathed it every single day. I was Buzz Off for Halloween one year.
That's amazing.
Oh yes. Oh, it was amazing.
Do we have
on the one year
that?
I'm going to try to find those photos, but on the one year I wasn't the Count from Sesame Street, I decided I was going to be Buzz Off. And it was probably the only Masters of the Universe costume we could possibly find. So really, it was just the everyday afternoon for me. I had all these action figures and everything, which I'm sure we'll get into throughout the course of this program that we in future episodes, etc. So, but that's the baseline of where I am with Masters of the Universe.
And Bob and I both grew up in the same small town in upstate New York, so I'm sure we were both watching it on WSTM Channel 3. It was the He-Man Scooby-Doo Hour, and I was actually part of the He-Man Scooby-Doo fan club. I had a card that had my name on it and had a picture of Scooby-Doo, not He-Man, which I thought was bullshit, but whatever. So we both were watching it at the same time. Jim, how about yourself?
Well, so I come from a little different situation. I'd say my experience is my neighbors and friends had the toys, and I was aware of the show. I feel like I've seen a few episodes, but I'm coming in a lot less, obsessive fan culture from you guys. Although I did, I've been friends with you guys for years.
Sorry.
I know,
I'm
right?
so sorry.
But I figure I provide a different perspective of like, I kind of know about it. And I think some of the clips are great. And some things are pretty funny. I remember Orko the most, I suppose. I think as a kid, I was always like, I just want more Orko. And,
the Jar Jar Binks of Eternia.
Absolutely. So I didn't quite get it, I guess. I don't know. And then, and so now, now I'm exploring it. I also am serving as the parent perspective. So I have my own kids, and I feel like I'm more nostalgic now about it, more into it now than I was before. And so exploring it with the kids is something I look forward to.
And I have someone else's kids that I'm watching with.
And I want to hear your perspective from as a father and from the kids, because we're currently doing a rewatch of the original series. We have a lot of thoughts about that. We're going to talk about those in future episodes because, spoiler, a lot of it's not good. It does not hold up well, adults from the 1980s. And I definitely want to hear if your kids are able to get through the OG episodes and what they think of the new ones, because I assume they're going to be much more fast-paced.
Yeah.
And less just like pounding your head against the wall. Oh, here's the random evil wizard of the week stuff.
So yesterday I showed them the two new previews, the teaser and the trailer for the new show. And then we went on, and they're like, "Oh, we want to watch it now. We want to watch it now." I was like, "You got to wait a week. You got to wait a week." And then I thought, "Oh, I'll show them the original, the first episode." And they first were kind of like smirking at like, this is the same thing. And I'm like, guys, it's like back we just watched the Goonies. It's like the same time period as the Goonies. It's that long ago. And they're like, okay. And then my 4-year-old and 8-year-old loved it. And then my 10-year-old, I was like, hey, we're going to move on to watching a movie. Do we need to finish the episode? He's like, no, probably not.
Oh, come
Man.
on.
Sorry,
No, no. This is
But-
devastating to me to
but
hear.
he was like, I really want to see the new show. So we'll see. I also,
Okay.
I wonder the age appropriateness of the new show, like
Yeah.
it's it's like
That's a
parental
great point.
guidance. I haven't seen it before. I know what the old one is. This one looks a little more mature, but
the way that I heard Kevin Smith describe it is that it's kind of like a pickup from the Legacy series. It's kind of like, we're all adults now, so where are we with this property? So it might be a little bit, it probably will be a lot more mature. Just from the trailers, I think it looks more mature. So
I just hope that like
But I don't
the
think it's
hidden
gonna be-
secret that's revealed is not something like, Kevin Smith film oriented, I suppose.
No, I
there
don't
will be
think so.
death, I believe.
There will be the characters that die, but I don't think you need to worry about like
Yeah.
Castlevania Netflix level violence. I don't think that's going to happen here. But we love Castlevania. I do think to your 10-year-old's credit though, 10-year-olds were probably too old for He-Man at the time in the 80s. Like honestly, that show had a very small age range in which it was like relevant and appropriate for, and there are only 2 seasons. I didn't realize that when I was actually watching it growing up. There are only 2 seasons of He-Man. It's just each season has, I think, 60 something episodes.
60 plus.
Something like that,
Yeah.
And they were all just advertisements for the toys anyways, right? Like
in the first season, no, and we can get into this more as we go along, but it's crazy. In the first season, half of the episodes don't even have Skeletor or the evil or his evil minions. It's literally just random evil Wizard of the Week plot lines, and they're terrible. Like literally, we couldn't watch more than like 4 in a sitting because I was like, my brain is leaking out of my ear. But I do hope that your children did enjoy in the very first episode of the original series when they're introducing the evil characters. Evelyn is introduced with her cape out and she's on a mountain and she is serving honey. She is living her best evil life. It's so good. But that episode is clearly an episode or an advertisement for the toys. But so I'm eager to hear what your kids have to say about it. And so did your parents not let you watch it as a kid, Jim, or was it just out of your awareness?
I think it just wasn't. I don't know if it was on our radar. My parents did, monitor some of the things, but I don't remember that being one that they said, no, you can't watch. I think it just wasn't on a channel I turned on to, or, I just wasn't into it enough to actually turn it on back in the day when you had to actually sit down when a show was scheduled.
Absolutely. It was, as Bob can tell you, it was Scooby-Doo, He-Man, Transformers. That was the line in the afternoon. And we were just hoping that we could get through Transformers before my father came home from work because he would always turn it off.
Well, it's funny for me. It was just He-Man. Like Transformers, I learned to appreciate more as a adult, really, just by virtue of you just sharing everything and watching the amazing Transformers movie, animated movie from the 80s.
Right,
that
it's
is
the only Transformers movie that exists.
Not the others.
And I wasn't really into Voltron at all. It was like ride or die He-Man for me, and the Snorks and the Shirt Tails. But
programs.
It was all, it's true. It was all He-Man for me every day. It was, I don't know why. Maybe somebody was just turning off the TV, or maybe my sister was flipping over to Rainbow Bright. I don't know. I liked Rainbow Bright too, I guess. Of course.
Of course you did. I was going to say, maybe there's some other reasons that you enjoyed He-Man also a little more than the others.
That's true. That could be true.
So for me, I was ride or die He-Man from a very
the lunchbox.
This is my actual He-Man lunchbox from 1984. It is metal. It still has all the parts to it. I will not say what is in the lunchbox currently because that could get me into trouble. But the thermos and everything is all in there. We as I said, it was part of the He-Man Scooby-Doo fan club, WSTM Channel 3. But beyond that, we had a good chunk of figures. We never had Castle Grayskull, which stung me like a fissure in my ass. But we did have Snake Mountain. I know you have it, Bob. And we had a variety of the other action figures and vehicles. But it was like my first really big fandom. I was a He-Man fan before I was a Transformers fan. And so we will go more into that as we continue with our little show. But moving on to the next question, as my script goes away. What are you most looking forward to about the reboot? So I'm going to start with Jim.
Well, like I mentioned before, I would like to watch it with my kids, so I don't want any big surprises that are like, oh, this is inappropriate, But I think that they're working off nostalgia, and they aiming for just older people who are love the original, or are they
Fan
aiming,
service.
yeah, or are they trying to draw everyone in and make a great show? From the previews, it looks like it's on par with other shows in that sense, so it should
Yeah,
be okay.
yeah.
Hmm.
And I have to say, I have a difficult relationship with Kevin Smith. We'll say that. I think he has amazing highs. I think he has like abyssal lows, but I think he's the best person to do this because he has a genuine love of the property, and I think he's not going to make a mockery of it. I think he's going to take what was the best parts of the original and jettison the rest. That's my guess.
Hmm.
Bob, what about you?
Yeah, when you talk about his like high highs, let's talk about the cast. Like, what an amazing voice cast they have.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go through the list now because we're running short on time. We'll all learn about it as we move forward. But like, wow, what an amazing cast! Sarah Michelle Gellar back for us all. So,
She never left,
um,
in my opinion, but
I think what I'm most excited to is to be able to catch up with the characters that I loved. For some reason, I loved Mossman, and I had the Mossman character, the Mossman figure, and he's only in 2 episodes late in season 2, which is strange. But I'm ready to catch up with them, see if we can maybe explore a little bit more of like what they can do, as opposed to just a Pow Sockum sort of approach. Like, let's see like what their powers are more. What things can they do that are more interesting or exciting that they may not have had the animation bandwidth to do back then.
because they're
But one of the
like,
things I
if you watch the original series, there's like 7 animations that they just keep using over and over and over again for especially
yeah.
He-Man and Tila. But yeah, what were we
So
gonna say?
one of the things I think one of the things I think I'm most excited for that I saw in the trailer, which I don't know if it's going to if it's truly a lift from the action figure, was when you bought He-Man, when you bought Skeletor and bought Castle Grayskull, all of those things, there was no Snake Mountain initially. There was 2 halves to the sword, and you needed both halves to the sword in order to really rule Castle Grayskull. And they split the sword in the trailer. There's a split of that sword. So I'm interested to see like what does that actually mean when they split the sword? Does it have any implications along those lines? I think we're going to see a lot of the background, or excuse me, the backstory on Castle Grayskull. I've already read the prequel comic and starting to get some of those details. And then I'm really excited to see the sorceress just really break out, bust out, and do a little bit more. Just from the trailer now, already I can see like, gosh, she's not just standing there anymore saying, oh, He-Man, oh, I can't leave this castle. But then an episode later, she's in the forest.
She's there.
Who knew?
There.
Yeah.
Yes.
So those are the things I think that I'm most excited for.
The rules of the sorceress are completely what's the word I'm looking for? Ever changing on the original show. They sometimes she's insanely powerful and can teleport people from like the field into Castle Grayskull. Other times she can't do anything. She can't even put a force field up around the castle. It's absurd. So I am hoping that's a little bit better defined for sure. I do want to ask your favorite characters. Bob mentioned Mossman. Do you have a favorite character, Jim, or was it not something that was even
Well,
resonating with you?
like I said, Orko, which I don't, with this more modern approach to the show, I don't know how that fits. But they show him in the
He's in,
trailer too,
and
so I don't know if he's going to be as funny and goofy and sounding like a Smurf, but like he'll be in the show.
now that would be an interesting retcon that Orko was actually a Smurf and was pulled into He-Man's dimension and gained magical powers. That's the crossover I
Perfect.
want to see. I will say
Yeah.
that there was a comic a few years ago. It was a DC Universe Masters of the Universe crossover, and Orko was the big bad of that. Like he became incredibly
Huh.
powerful, and he was like the villain of the whole
Interesting.
thing, which was interesting.
Okay.
Bob, is Mossman your favorite?
Yeah, Mossman is my favorite. I think because I liked his figure so much, which was just a Beastman mold,
Yes.
painted green,
Yes.
flocked with weird fuzzy moss, and he smelled like pine.
He
You know,
had
I
that
think of
Pine Sol thing going for him. Yeah.
I think of Diane Amos and her Pine Sol commercials. So
Exactly right. Exactly right. So for me, I don't know if you can see my shirt. It's He-Man in a sling with Fisto next to it. Fisto is my favorite character. Yes. This is not appropriate for general audiences, sorry. But it is appropriate for the alley in Boston where I would usually wear it. So Fisto is my favorite character, and I don't even remember seeing him on the show when I was a kid, but I always thought he was a great figure. He's totes mask. He's this giant fist. That is not a commentary on my sex life, I swear to you. But we actually we just watched the episodes that they introduced Fisto in season 2, and he's a great character. He actually has a lot of depth. Like he starts out as a bad guy and he turns to this the good guy. So he has this really great basso profundo voice, and he's just to me the purple and the silver, he just popped. I always thought he was a great, and he had that you pull back his arm and it would boom, the action figure would punch. I actually had the original Fisto action figure for years, and it's the rubber bands that kept the legs together snapped as I was moving away from Boston,
Oh.
which I thought was so apropos of my time in that city, and you can interpret that however you wish. But Fisto is still my favorite character, and I do hope he gets some play in the new show. Any other thoughts, Jim, Bob? I mean, go for it, Jim.
Well, I'm just wondering what you guys think, looking at the trailers. Do you feel that it's going to be faithful to those old favorite characters, like we said about, any of them? Or do you think it's going to be this modern, gritty new vision of them? Or, like, looking at the trailer, my initial impression, because I hadn't watched the old ones recently, I was like, oh, that looks like He-Man. It's like kind of how I remember it. And then I'd watch the old episode and go like, oh, that's not what it is, but it is. It has a lot of the pieces. But then when you start thinking about how goofy, no offense, the original was,
It's goofy.
Is any of that going to be in it? Or is it like, as Kevin Smith said in one of the preview videos, he said they pick up where they left off and then something changes. Is it going to be like goofy for the first like 10 minutes and then something happens where it modernizes or something? Like I wonder, what do you think about that?
I suspect it will be both, frankly. I think there will be moments of levity. I mean, if you look at Kevin Smith's work historically, he does mix in that absurd humor with really serious stuff. I mean, Dogma is essentially about the end of the world, right? But it's still a pretty funny movie. But I do expect, I am expecting wholesale slaughter. I'm expecting a bunch of the B and C list characters to get just flat out killed off within the first 5 episodes. I 100% see that happening. Bob?
Yeah, I think Revelations, as the title kind of tells us a little bit about what the direction it might be going, is I think we're going to start to learn some things that the original series may not have fleshed out as well. They tried from time to time, but it was very Monster of the Week. And surprise, the monster was Skeletor, but it was very Monster of the Week, that it wasn't as serialized. I love serialized stuff. I'm so excited for something that's serialized when it comes to He-Man, which I'm going to assume the 2003 reboot probably was, but I can't find the 2003 reboot. I never saw any of it.
Is that the Toonami one?
Yeah, I believe so.
I think it was only a movie. I don't even think it was a series. I think it was just a movie.
Oh. When I was doing some research online, I think I saw that there was a series of 30 or so episodes total.
Okay.
It said it was like a prequel almost, is the impression I got from reading about that one. But it was very like low on the radar.
Yeah.
Okay.
We didn't.
Interesting.
They didn't promote it very heavily.
So I think there might be some faithfulness, because I think we do need to have some fan service or people are just going to feel betrayed, I think. But I think that there'll be revelations to kind of take these characters to the next iteration or the next story for themselves. So I'm excited about that.
Now, to switch gears slightly, have either of you seen the new Saved by the Bell series?
I have not.
yeah.
Is it good?
Oh yeah, I like it a lot. I'm as much of a fan of Saved by the Bell as you guys are of He-Man. And what I would say that series does so well is that it acknowledges the corniness and some of the social issues with the original series and confronts them while still being in the same tone and comedy and world of the original. And so it's doing commentary on itself while being it, in different ways. And I hope that this does the same thing. I feel like that's a good way to do a reboot these days.
Yeah, I think based on the trailers, at least, I think we were set up for that. And there are lots of questions that do need to be answered. Like even watching the original show, we would say, Can only Adam turn into He-Man, or can anyone turn into He-Man if they have the sword and they say the words? Is there a point where he automatically turns back into Adam? Is there like a time limit? Or can he stay He-Man forever? If that's the case, why isn't he always He-Man? What is like the downside? How is Tila really that stupid that she can't figure this out? Like it's there are many questions, and in fact, if you're watching this video, please add the questions that you're hoping get answered below. As Bob mentioned earlier, there is a prequel comic book that's currently being published by, I think, Dark Horse, if that sounds right, Bob.
Yes. Yep.
Kevin Smith is one of the writers on it. I'll be fully disclosure, I did not love the first episode. I thought it was all over the place narratively, but it clearly gives you a sense of some of the topics that they're going to be handling. And I know that they're going into He-Man lore for stuff that was planned for after the original series ending and didn't happen for various reasons, but that's already being brought into these prequel comics. So I think you're going to see a lot of really interesting stuff that is directly tied to the original series and what they were planning to do after that ended. With that being said, Bob, anything to add?
No, I'm good. I'm excited for the series. I think we should leave it there, honestly, because I think we'll have a lot to talk about once we see these episodes.
Absolutely. And I was going to say, are we pumped? But no one's as pumped as He-Man is. Like, that guy lifts, bro.
Especially in the new one. Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm not mad about it. And now we finally get he nipples, because that was never in the original cartoon. But thank you, Kevin Smith, for giving us the nipples we've been looking for. Jim, anyone?
And I like...
Go ahead.
And I like that Adam and He-Man look different.
Totally different.
As well.
You don't have the same build. Exactly. Jim, anything else for you to add?
Well, I was just going to say that this I'm playing the role of the person who's kind of lost and asking a lot of questions. This video has to do with some type of podcast you guys do? Is that
That's correct. Oh. Good job, Jim. So as Jim just teed us up, do not forget to check out the Great Pop Culture Debate podcast. That's the whole mothership for this whole enterprise. Season 4 is dropping in late August 2021, but you can currently catch episodes on Best Disney Animated Film, on Best 90s Cartoon, on Best... I'm trying to think what other ones are relevant to He-Man audiences.
Final Fantasy episode might be something that best Final Fantasy game would be somewhat relevant.
Yep, those are all out there right now on your podcast platform of choice. And make sure that you check out greatpopculturedebate.com, where you can find out polls for upcoming episodes, the brackets for all the episodes we've done so far, so you can actually play along at home, and subscribe to us on our various platforms so you make sure that you don't miss any of the episodes from season 4, including best Star Wars character, best Tim Burton film, best disco song, and much, much more. So I want to thank you for watching. We're going to be back with our thoughts on the first group of episodes by the end of the weekend of the 23rd, right? That's our plan, boys?
Let's hope so.
Let's hope so. And so we will hope that you will be back. We hope that you will join us. Send in questions that you want us to answer, because we do want to address these burning Eternian questions. And with that, I think we are going to bid you adieu. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone.
In today's episode, we learned about self-promotion. In the past, people looked down on self-promotion, thinking it was tacky or cheap. But remember, kids, in a post-Kardashian society, modesty has no business. If you don't promote yourself, or your podcast, or whatever other crappy project you're working on, no one's going to promote it for you.
And it's just dumb.